Hello, music fans. This is Tony Underwood, and this is the Quiz the Music Man podcast and vlog for those of you watching the video. And it is Wednesday, January 13th, 2021. Wow, that's something. I know everybody says time flies. We thought 2020 was over. 2021 came on in. It's crazy talk, I know. I'm getting myself where to look here. Well, it's nice to have everybody here today, and we're going to talk a little bit about some different things. We're going to go over some music news, and then, I get so many people wanting to take music lessons and things. I have a music school, and among other things, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the thought behind doing music lessons and why you do it and why you should do it and all that good stuff. So let's first look at some music news. And I see from BBC that Shakira is the latest star to sell rights to her songs. Now, she's made millions of dollars. She's got 145 songs for a multi-million-dollar sum. And why is that? Why would she do it? It's struck with the Hypnosis Song Fund, recently acquired Blondie and Neil Young's music. What do they do with it? Well, they do a lot of things. They sell it to people. They stream it. I'm not sure if she's selling the streaming royalties. But she sold, since releasing her first album in 1991, she sold 80 million records. But, she might not have made a lot of money, depending. Look up Kanye's contract. He thinks he got a bad deal, but really he's getting millions of dollars. And if you were to do all that yourself, you might get zero. 100% of zero is not too good. 2% of millions of dollars, that's some real money. What usually happens is these artists are young and they get a big contract wave in their face and they don't realize, they think they're making all that money and they're going to make millions and millions, but they don't. That money they're getting up front is usually like a loan. It's got to be repaid through your album. And you don't get much of the album, a percentage. You get a small percentage, and then they take that and they're taking the other part too. They're taking the other part that's theirs and they're taking that smaller part you were getting because they've already given you money. They're taking it out of there, and they've got a lot of costs that they take out and a lot of expenses, which if you know anything about business, which most of these people are very young, they don't know. You want to have expenses. You want to have them, not somebody else. You want to have to pay for that thing, or you might end up paying for a $300 towel or a $3,000 party that you didn't want to spend. Now, I'm not knocking the record companies. That's how they make business, and they make people stars. And believe me, there's lots of people out there. It's like some huge percentage of Apple songs on Apple Music and Spotify never get listened to. I've got music on Spotify and Apple Music that gets very, very tiny few listens. I'm just starting to market that. Hopefully that'll go up, but there's no, guarantee, and there's no guarantee if you get let's say a song deal, a recording contract. I was almost going to say a record contract. There's no records anymore. Well, there are, but they're not as much as, well, actually they are. Records, I think, are a lot more income than CDs for a lot of artists. But anyway, you know what I mean. You think you're going to sell a lot, and maybe you don't. And a lot of these artists who get a big record contract, they never make the money back. Google Krayshawn, she was a pioneering female rap and hip hop artist. Her song was Gucci. It's been a few years, and she's you can watch the video. She tells she got something like $350,000 and thought she was rich, but really she had to start paying. When the band went on tour, she had to pay everything. They were doing parties, and she had to pay for it. And then when she did start making money, they took their larger share. I think they got 60-75%. They took that, that's theirs, and then her, whatever was left, they took that to pay up the money. Said she never paid it back. She made a deal with them. Now, again, I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, you need to watch your contract and build up your own social media so that you have some bargaining. But that's probably the reason, one of the reasons Shakira's doing this. She's getting multi-million dollars with the wave of a pen. She signs a deal, and now she's getting millions, and she's giving it all to somebody else. Well, you might say, well, that's all my content. A lot of these artists like Kanye want to get his content back, and that's for sure. But you have to look at it. What can you do with those millions? You put those millions in the bank and live off half the interest and let the other interest go back into building that up. And she's got to be in her, 40s or close to it. In 20 years, she'll have a huge nest egg and she don't have to do nothing. In the meantime, it'll pay for her. I mean, that's what money does. Even somebody that doesn't know anything about investing can get 2 or 3%. Just on your banker, he'll give it to you. He'll use it for something else, and so that's every million is 30 grand. And if you get 4 or 5 million, that's a lot of money. That's 6 figures. So put half of that back into the principal, live off half of it, and she's still earning. You still get out there and earn, or if you have a spouse that's earning, and she's set. So basically, she could be set for life. But a lot of people see those. They spend all their money. That's like a lot of sports people that get a lot of money up front. They sign a $5 million deal. Well, it's a 6-year deal, so they're getting less than $1 million a year. They don't get their money in the off season, maybe, depending on the contract. They have to pay taxes, which at that level is about half if you're not knowledgeable, not invest in real estate and other things. Your manager gets his cut. Taxes, and then you have to put something away for retirement because you're not going to play football or your sport for 30 years. I mean, we're not all Johnny Unitas, look him up. You might have average, is probably a few years, and 10 years is a good one. And still, so now you're less than $800,000 a year. Half of that's $400,000. You give 20% of the gross to your manager is $160,000. Now you got $240,000. Well, that seems like a lot too. But you start buying people cars and getting these big houses, and some people pay $6-8 grand for a meal, and a few grand for suits. And they say most of the top draft picks are already $1 million in debt. A lot of the parents show up and say, they want $1 million or whatever, and people buy them all these cars, which they could do if they did it right and put all their money in the bank and tell the parents, yes, next year I'm going to get you, pick your car out, I'm going to get you a new one next year, pick your house out, and don't buy it, go get a mortgage on it and let your money earn money. Anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. But it brings it up because, financial security is the obvious reason. Rather than gambling, their songs will continue to earn royalties for the next 25 years. They'd get in the lump sum. And they sell these to movies and a bunch of other stuff. They merchandise it. They said Heart of Gold would never be found on a burger commercial, but that doesn't matter where you're going to put it. Bob Dylan recently handed his 600-song back catalog to Universal, reported to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And you see a record company or a big conglomerate, they can exploit that. They can exploit that music where you as a person, you got to hire people, and it's a lot of work. Could be up to Shakira got about a 13 million pound, which is probably, 18 or 19 million US dollars tax bill she faced from the Spanish government. Well, there you go. Michael Jackson bought the rights to the Beatles songs. The story goes, I heard Paul McCartney say that he was with Michael. He said, you make sure you keep your masters because that's where all the money is in the publishing. So Michael Jackson, next time he saw him, he said, you told me that, I bought all your catalog. I don't think Paul McCartney even realized it. They talk about it. So there we are. She's selling it up. Now, see, Taylor Swift wanted to get all her rights back, all of her masters, which is different. Her masters, there's different types of rights. When you write a song and record it, you get the publishing. That's one part of it. That's half of it. The other half is the actual record you made. That master, it's called. And if you did a record company and they own the master, well, that's it. They have to pay you the publishing, but they can do what they want with the masters. You'd have to go re-record that. Now, I've always wondered if during the process of recording, if you could not take a break and go to another absolutely separate recording studio, pay your people separately and record it at that same time and keep it. I don't know. I would have to see how the contracts are written to see if that's what you could do. Because she could go back and record her old songs, but she's 10 years older and it's a whole different thing. But I would just say to everybody, keep your masters, that's all, or have it revert back. Or allow them to continue to use them as long as they pay you a certain amount of money, but then you can use them for things too. So what does Shakira have to say about all this? The Colombian said that this place Hipgnosis, Hipgnosis, that's the company that bought it, would be a great home for her music and wax lyrical about her love of songwriting. So she could write all the songs, like it was gone. So she's on board. She got that big tax bill. So make yourself knowledgeable. Go talk to an attorney that you know now. Maybe if you're a young person, make friends with people who are going to be attorneys and doctors and, or your friends that do that. Keep up with them and have some value added to their life so they can add some value to yours. Then you trust somebody. You don't have to worry who's coming out of the woodwork and, you end up working for the attorney the record company gave you. Well, yeah, that's a problem. So anyway, we've got some other podcasts about that. We'll go into it a little more. One day I'm going to break it down for you. And there's a lot of YouTube attorneys. I am not an attorney. I know nothing about the law. It's like the man said, the only thing I know is I know absolutely nothing, and that's me. So let's switch gears. Everybody is thinking about guitar lessons or music lessons. We're going to use guitar lessons as an example. So let's talk about this because there's a lot of stuff involved in getting into music lessons and the why and what's it going to do for you and how's it going to make you a better person and all this stuff. But let's think about this for a minute. I've seen thousands of students. I've seen them fail. I've seen them succeed. I've seen them succeed for a while and then fail. I've seen them fail and then succeed. They take time off. They come back later. I've seen brand new adults and teens come in and in 3 months are playing like crazy. It's amazing. They're playing songs. They're pretty much at the point where most people would love to be. And it's at the point, even me, I don't go out and gig anymore, but I could. They're at that point already. They don't have all the experience and they're not as good as they can get. But and I've seen people take lessons for years and never really get good and quit. So here you go. Let me tell you, if you're learning to play guitar and you're a normal sized person, if you're younger and smaller, it'll be a little bit more time. But an adult or a teen going into guitar, if they're committed, which means they're going to put some time in and do the work, and their instructor is giving them a good path, within 3 to 6 months, you should be able to play a song, pick out the melody, play the melody, play a few chords, and play along. Read music fairly well. Now you can get apps to read music and it'll really help you fast. Learn about chord charts and so forth. 3 to 6 months you should be able to do that on a rudimentary level, 1 or 2 songs. And it might be you can play Red River Valley or Rising Sun, There Is a House in New Orleans. You're plinking up bum 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 bum. Michael rowed the boat ashore and play the chords. The chords you've got to any different songs. And a chord is just, where you... that's, 3 to 6 months. You should be able to do that. Now, you might not think you're doing it as fluently as the guitar people out there, but that's all right. And within a year, if you devote, I would say, the best is an hour a day of practice, I think that's too much, because studies have shown that after half an hour, our ability to learn drops from about, starts at 100%. By about a half hour, it's down to about 80. And then after that half hour, let me tell you, it drops to like 10. So you should practice for half an hour and then go do something else for a little bit, or refresh yourself and come back, until you get to the point where you get into like the zone, the flow, to where you start a practice session and you're just going to look at one little thing, and you look up and 2 hours have gone by. So when you get to that point, that's different. But if you could do a half hour a day, that's fantastic. And I know most people can. So do a half hour every other day, or 10, 15 minutes at a time, a couple times on the days you can practice. If you can do that, after about a year, you should be pretty good at doing songs, reading music, and playing. You should be able to go into a song, see a chord progression, and be able to just kind of play it automatically. Pick out some of the melody. And most songs today have a little bit of an intro, a few measures, a few like 8 beats, like 2 or 3 sets of 8 of a little intro. You play chords, there's maybe a solo, that's another 2 or 3, 4 sets of 8. And then you got an outro. That's it. You should be able to do that in a year. But I've seen people play for a couple of years and just never get anywhere, and they quit. So let's talk a little bit about, first of all, I can't really tell you what you want out of guitar lessons, and you know what? You can't tell me, because you don't know enough to know what you want. And what we want kind of changes. And let me share something with you. If you like steak, I'm going to tell you, you get the biggest, juiciest steak and put as big a bite in your mouth as you can and chew it, and you'll love it. But you eat a couple pounds of steak, depending on who you are, and you're not going to want that other bite. And I'll tell you something else. If you take that big mouthful of steak and just chew it, and let's say you chew it for, try 5 minutes, because you probably can't. Most people can't. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you're still chewing that same mouthful. It doesn't even taste like steak, because your mouth and all has already digested most of it. It's still in your mouth. Doesn't taste right. You don't want that steak anymore, but you just were hungry, Water, how much water can you drink at a sitting? How much Coke, how much whatever. I love to, you love to dance. Well, you don't get up and dance for hours and hours on end. And you don't know anything about it. So how can you know what feels good, what feels bad, what you like, what you don't like? You don't know what you want later. And let me say something else. You don't know what you don't know. And I know that sounds stupid, but you don't know what you don't know. And once you know, then you don't know it either. You got to learn it. And then you're like, well, that's not really what I wanted. What are you looking for? Being a rock god? Stage, the lights, the screaming audience, shredding all those solos, crazy outfits, wearing these Elton John kind of things. Google him, some of his weird outfits. Is that what you want, being in a video? 90% of the professionals don't do that. You're looking at the very top people that can do stuff like that. Most musicians, they play for smaller audiences, or they are playing to write music, or play for it to be listened to or put with something else, or they might do a kind of show like that and jump up and down and say, hey, everybody, it's good to meet, hello, Cleveland, or wherever you are, and have some lights and some smoke and mirrors and do your little solo. But even at that level, most people don't do that all the time. They play their set. They talk to the audience. Most people in an audience, some of them are drunk off their rockers, so they're not going to listen to you. Other times they're at a function where they're more concerned, your background music. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's how it is. Out of all the great doctors out there, I don't see any of them. I see maybe 2 or 3. There's thousands of the best doctors in the world. I don't see them. They don't do nothing for me. So you see, you're in music, you're doing for the people that are there. What you learn, or should learn, is an enjoyment, a satisfaction of achievement and of learning. And it gets into that mental, physical, and spiritual, because music gets mental, it's physical, you're doing stuff, and then that spiritual comes in. And spiritual is just something you can't define. It's not science. It's not, it's, you can't use the spiritual to prove the concrete, and you can't use the concrete to prove the spiritual. It's a faith. And even in science, you have to have some faith. You have to, have faith that your experiments prove, based on what you know, that light is both waves and quantum of energy. Because I can't see it, so how do you know? So you have to have faith in your basics, and that things are proven. And the same way, spiritualness, it's just faith that this is going to happen. Faith in yourself, those feelings. So let's break it down. What do you want? I think what most people want is to be able to look at a page of musical notation. If you're looking at the notes, I'll show most people, let's see, I was trying to get something but two things here. Well, let's say for a guitar, if you saw something like that you could play it or pick it out and learn it. It might take you a few minutes, or you might have to, if you're just beginning, you might have to work on it for a while. But at the end of the year, you should be able to play that. The letter name and the length of a note, or the alphabet of music is A to G, and it repeats, and there's a few alterations. So you can look at a note and say, oh, that's an A, that's a B, that's a D, that's an E flat, that's a this, and know how to play it on your guitar. Well, this particular note is played this way. Know how long to hold that note, which is the length. So it's called pitch and rhythm, the highness or lowness of a note, and how long to hold that note and when to go to the next one. And folks, that's about it. Now, chords are in where you play more than one note at a time. So it's kind of the same. It's not exactly the same, but it's kind of the same. Excuse me just 1 minute here. Lost my train of thought there. Chords are just 2 or more notes played at the same time. That's where you strum. I did those a little bit ago. You just strum your chords. That's you play to back up yourself singing or other people singing, or to play along with other instruments. And then the melody is where you'll pick out a single note at a time. Bum 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 ba bum 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 bum. Michael rowed the boat ashore. You would sing that with lyrics. Michael rowed the boat ashore. To know how to play those on the guitar and how long to hold them and to read them off the paper. And there's other ways to read music. The quickest is a lead sheet, which is that melody line, plus it indicates the chords to play, so you know kind of how it goes with the lyrics. And the other is just called a chord chart, which just has letters for the chords above lyrics, so you would kind of know the song and play it. You have to know how to practice in order to learn a whole song, and that's a whole thing in itself. And I love, I have a particular set of skills, which is Liam Neeson from what is it called? Taken, the Taken series. He's a cool dude. That's what you're learning, a particular set of skills. And let me share something with you. The skills you learn for music equate to everything. I know exactly who's going to be successful at whatever they do, engineering, medicine, lawn care, being a plants, dog grooming, you name it. If they're successful musicians, they're going to, because it's life skills. And then it's learning to put really mature adult style. It's the test of an adult to be able to do this stuff. It's slow at first, but it'll get quicker, and it's quicker as you improve. So these skills of going over one little couple notes at a time over and over again, eventually you'll get to where you can string those along really quickly, and it won't take very long. And like I said, the 30-minute practice intervals, but then you'll get to where things just flow. And you'll just go start practicing. You won't even care what time it is. An hour will go by, 20 minutes, 2 hours, it won't matter. That's just kind of how it is. Be in the moment when you're practicing and when you're living. And just play the note. Just play the note. Don't start over. Don't go back to the beginning. Let me start over. No. In fact, I put 2 pieces of paper on each side, just the part you're working on. If you mess up, stop. Put your paper, look just at that measure, work it out. If it takes you the whole practice session and many, many others, that means you glossed over, because just because you got something don't mean you get it. Just because you do it in a certain way doesn't mean you've got that skill. You got to develop that skill. So don't start from the beginning. Start where you left off. Just do the work. Like a paint by numbers. Google paint by numbers. You'll see a picture with line drawings with lots of little patterns, like squares and things in different shapes, and they have a number in them, a lot of 3s and all. And you take your paint, and 3 is red. You just paint right in those lines, that 3s. And then you go with the blues or 5, and you paint all the 5s. And when it ends up, it's this beautiful picture. Well, one of the things I draw as well, if you take any photograph, it's pixels, and it gets down to where it's just dots. If you zoom way in and you just replicate those dots, it's kind of easy, because you can get a grid and say, oh, there's a dot right in the boom, there's a dot halfway over doom. You put all the dots in. If you were to do that for a big picture and back up, you'd have a beautiful picture. Well, that's the paint by numbers is the same way. Music is just play the note. Play the note one at a time. Don't play a song. Get the note, the right pitch, the right length, and go to the next note. It will sound like a song. You're just connecting those dots. It's the sawdust principle. If you had a huge tree, I could give you one long saw. You'd probably need somebody on the other side to help you, but you guys could go up, because I've done this before. When I was a little kid, actually, we had to chop these big trees down. And you go, pull that saw back, and it digs in. You do that a few times. You'll see the little bits, tiny bits of that tree fall on the ground. Now, the key is to just get a rhythm, and you don't work yourself furiously. You don't press in real hard. You get a rhythm, a nice flow. Zoop, zoop. You can do that all day. And soon the less energy you put in, it seems like the better it cuts, and that sawdust just keeps coming out. And it might take you a couple weeks. It might take you a couple days. It might take a couple hours. But the better you are at that saw, and you'll get quicker and quicker, and that tree will come down. So I'm going to leave you with this. Enjoy the journey. Because who wants to stop crushing life just because you get there? Look, all these people that can really play and do well, they've gotten to their destination. They got it. A lot of these people, 3 to 6 months into it, they were there. I mean, I've had some people, I would say they're prodigies, but they really are just happened. Their natural abilities were just right for what they were doing. And they focused on what they were doing, and they practiced and kept at it. And within 3 to 4 months, they were playing like crazy. This 10,000 hour stuff works, but that doesn't mean you have to. And that's like saying, to get from Maine to Miami, it might take you, 500 days. But that doesn't mean you can't get there faster. So you can get there a lot faster. And I'm actually, this is some self-promotion, but I'm coming out with a lesson series that's going to be with video and other things called Play Guitar Now. So if you're interested, shoot me a message. I'll give you some information. It's coming out in a few weeks, and it's a 12-module course, about 12 weeks. 8 for some weeks, 16 for some. Might take you a year. Well, who cares? You know, what were you doing last year? Splitting the atom, or you know, you got cold fusion going on, or you know, you're getting that great theory of everything that melds quantum and classical physics. I don't think so. So anyway, there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you haven't, I can't really do much about it. Let me know what I could do to make it better. I can do that. And if you have questions you would like me to answer, send them to me. And listen to my music. I'm all over Spotify, Apple Music, Tony Underwood. There's a tuba player named Tony Underwood. And you know what? He does some good music too. Go listen to him. Play my music for yourself, your friends, your family, your older relatives. Play it for your pets or your plants, or just play it when you're sleeping. That's okay. My YouTube channel, Tony Underwood Music, has lots of covers. I'm adding that all the time. And of course, I have this podcast. And if you'd like to learn about guitar, I'm going to have other instruments and other lessons and things coming out. Shoot me a message. And I hope you have a fantastic week. And this is the Music Man signing out. Bye-bye.